In the autumn of 1769, a French philosopher was given a gift that quietly ruined him. His name was Denis Diderot, and the gift was a dressing gown. Scarlet, elegant, far finer than anything he owned. He put it on, and for a moment he felt magnificent. Then he looked around his study, and something had changed. His old chair, which had been perfectly fine an hour ago, now looked shabby. His desk looked tired. His rug looked cheap. Next to the splendor of the robe, his whole life suddenly looked wrong. So he replaced the chair, then the desk, then the rug, the mirror, the prints on the wall, one by one, until he'd spent a small fortune, all to keep up with a single piece of cloth. Later, nearly broke, he wrote a stunned little essay about what had happened to him. One line has echoed for 250 years. I was the absolute master of my old dressing gown. I have become a slave to the new one. What happened to Diderot has a name now, and it is almost certainly happening to you. 200 years after Diderot, an anthropologist named McCracken read that essay and recognized something the philosopher had only felt. He gave it a name, the Diderot Effect, and a definition that should make you uneasy. The arrival of one new possession can set off a spiral of buying that doesn't stop with the first thing. You've lived this, even if you never noticed. You buy a new couch, finally, a nice one, and within a week, the coffee table beside it looks tired. So you replace the coffee table, and now the rug underneath looks wrong. New rug. Now the curtains don't match, then the lamp. Then the walls feel like they need repainting. The couch cost you $400. The couch's gravity cost you $4,000. Here's the strange part McCracken noticed. None of those follow-up purchases felt like a craving. They didn't feel like greed or weakness or losing control. Each one felt reasonable. Obvious even. Of course the old coffee table had to go. It clashed. You weren't being impulsive. You were just fixing something that suddenly looked broken. And that quiet sense of just fixing it is exactly what makes the Diderot effect so dangerous. It never feels like overspending. It feels like good taste. So why does a single nice object make everything around it suddenly unbearable? The answer isn't about money at all. It's about a deep human craving most people never notice they have. The need for things to match. Your mind is constantly, quietly working to keep your world coherent, a single consistent picture of who you are. The objects around you aren't just objects. Together, they're a kind of sentence about you. This is the kind of person I am. And when one item suddenly speaks a different, fancier language than the rest, it breaks the sentence. The mind feels the discord almost like a wrong note in a song, and it itches to resolve it. McCracken had a term for the set of things that go together. He called it a Diderot unity. Your stuff isn't random. It clusters into a unity that matches your identity and your place in the world. And here's the trap. When you introduce one object from a higher unity, a nicer couch, a luxury watch, a designer bag, you don't just own a nicer thing. You've placed a foot into a more expensive identity. And the mind, hating the half-step, wants to move the rest of you to match. This is why the spiral has nothing to do with the object's usefulness. Diderot's old robe kept him just as warm. The new one wasn't better at being a robe. It was better at being a statement, and the statement is what cost him everything. He wasn't upgrading his clothing. He was upgrading his idea of himself, one forced purchase at a time. What makes this worse today is that an entire economy has learned to pull this lever on purpose. Diderot stumbled into his spiral by accident, with one gift. You are walked into yours every day by design. Think about how almost everything is now sold in sets. The phone that needs the case, the matching earbuds, the watch that talks to it, the fitness identity that needs the leggings, the tracker, the bottle, the subscription. Companies don't want to sell you a product anymore. They want to sell you the first piece of a unity, because they know the first piece quietly orders all the others. One purchase becomes a doorway, and the room behind it is full of things you'll now feel you need. There's a sharper, sadder version of this that researchers have actually documented. A recent study looked at people who'd made one large transformation, in this case cosmetic surgery, and found the change triggered a cascade. New appearance, then new clothes to match the new face, then new places to be seen, then a whole new set of belongings to fit a new self. One change at the center, and the entire life reorganizing and respending around it. The robe had simply become a body. The lever is always the same. Disturb the unity. Introduce the one nicer thing. Then let the person's own need for coherence do the expensive rest. Diderot, broke and wiser, ended his essay with a kind of longing, not for more, but for the harmony he'd had before the robe. And buried in that regret is the way out, which turns out to be almost the opposite of what the spiral teaches. The first move is simply to see the chain before it starts. The spiral is invisible only while it feels reasonable. So when you bring home the nicer thing and suddenly notice everything around it looking shabby, that exact feeling is the alarm. That's not your taste improving. That's the Diderot effect switching on. And the moment you can name it, the new thing is making the old things look wrong, you've broken the spell. Because now the next obvious purchase reveals itself as what it really is. A reaction, not a need. The second move is the one Diderot points to himself. Protect your old unity on purpose. There's a quiet strength in letting your possessions stay a little mismatched, a little imperfect, a little yours, instead of bending your whole life to serve one shiny newcomer. The most expensive words in any language might be, well, now it doesn't match. And the freest might be the ones Diderot lost and spent his last years missing. It's fine as it is. And maybe the deepest move is to remember what the robe actually was. It was never about being warmer, or even about looking better. It was a story he was sold about who he could become, and the price of that story was every other thing he already owned and loved. The next time one beautiful new thing makes your whole life look like it needs replacing, you can stop and ask the question that would have saved Diderot a fortune. Do I need new things? Or do I just need to stop letting one thing make me feel poor? If you learned something today with us, like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. But before you go, I want to know, what's one purchase that quietly made you buy 5 more things to go with it? Leave it in the comments down below.